You already know the spots. You go there every time. And honestly, you go there because it has always worked well enough. But here is what she is not telling you. Well enough is not the same as remarkable. And there is a version of her experience you have never unlocked. Not because you're not trying, but because nobody ever showed you the full map. Here is what the research shows. Extra-genital erogenous zones cover up to 26% of a woman's body surface. Studies confirm that slow, deliberate touch on these zones activates the same brain pleasure centers as direct genital stimulation. And women who receive full body stimulation before intercourse report significantly higher orgasm rates, which means right now, most men are playing with less than half the instrument. I'm Dr. Reena, urologist and men's health advisor. And today, I am going to walk you through 6 erogenous zones that most men never touch, what the research says about each one, why her body responds to them the way it does, and exactly what that means for you as her partner. This is not a technique video. This is a biology video because once you understand why these zones work, the how becomes obvious. Most men never get this information. You are about to. Now, before we get into the 6 zones, you need to understand one thing first. Without it, touching these zones will not work the way they should. Female arousal is not a local event. It is a full body process when a woman feels safe, relaxed, and connected. Her entire nervous system opens up. Touch that felt neutral 5 minutes ago can suddenly feel electric. Researchers call this the arousal state shift, and it changes everything. Here is the biology behind it. The skin contains 2 types of nerve fibers. Fast fibers, they detect pressure and location, and slow fibers called C-tactile fibers that detect affection and intimacy. C-tactile fibers respond to one specific type of touch: slow, gentle, deliberate. Research published in Nature Neuroscience found the optimal stroking speed is approximately 3 centimeters per second. That is very slow, slower than most men naturally move. Fast touch feels like a scratch. Slow touch sends a completely different signal to the brain, one that says safety, desire, connection. Now, here's the second piece. Non-genital touch releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Oxytocin lowers cortisol, the stress hormone that physically blocks arousal. In other words, slow touch on non-genital zones removes the biological barriers preventing her from fully letting go. That is the foundation. Every zone we cover next works because of exactly this mechanism. Biology before technique always. Now, let's get into the 6 zones. Zone 1, the neck. Now, the neck might seem obvious, but the way most men approach it is completely wrong. Research from Bangor University found that 92% of women rate the neck as a top-tier erogenous zone. It consistently ranks above the breasts in sensitivity studies. Here is why. The skin on the back of the neck is extremely thin. It sits directly over the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve connects the brain directly to the heart, the lungs, and the gut. Light stimulation here does not just feel good locally, it sends a signal through the entire nervous system. And here is something most men do not know. Warm breath on the back of the neck can be more stimulating than actual touch. The skin there is so thin, temperature changes register before contact does. Slow, light, deliberate, not pressure, not speed, presence. Most men either skip this zone entirely or rush through it on the way somewhere else. The men who linger here, she remembers. Zone 2, the scalp. The scalp is one of the most overlooked erogenous zones on the entire body. It contains thousands of sensory receptors packed into a small surface area. Running fingers slowly through her hair activates all of them at once. Research shows scalp stimulation triggers what neuroscientists call a cephalic tingling response, a wave of sensation that travels from the scalp down through the spine toward the pelvis. I had a patient, I will call her Laya. Laya had been in a long-term relationship for 9 years. She had never mentioned her scalp to her partner because she thought it was strange. When he ran his fingers slowly through her hair during a massage, something happened she had never experienced before. She had an orgasm from touch alone. For the first time in her life, she told me. I cried after because no one had ever bothered to find that. The scalp is not a strange zone. It is an ignored one, and ignoring it is leaving one of her most powerful pleasure pathways completely untouched. Zone 3, the inner wrist. Now, this one surprises men every time, the inner wrist. The skin here is among the thinnest on the entire body. You can see the veins through it. That thinness means nerve density is extremely high. But here's what makes this zone uniquely powerful. It is a vulnerable spot. We instinctively protect our wrists. Touching this area gently, especially unexpectedly, sends a signal of deep intimacy and trust to the brain. Research on cat tactile fiber activation shows the inner wrist responds particularly strongly to slow light tracing, not pressing, not gripping, tracing. I had a patient, I will call her Elena. She told me that a light touch on her inner wrist during a quiet evening felt more electric than actual intercourse. Her words, because the touch was slow, deliberate, and entirely focused on her, not on where things were heading. That is the point. Touch that says, I am here with you right now, not touch that says, I am on my way somewhere else. Anticipation is its own form of stimulation, and the inner wrist builds it faster than almost any other zone. Zone 4, behind the knee. Behind the knee is almost never touched during intimacy. That invisibility is exactly what makes it work. The skin here is thin, hidden, and almost never exposed in daily life because it is rarely touched. The nerve endings there are essentially unused. When you do touch them slowly and deliberately, the response is disproportionately strong. Researchers call this sensory novelty. The brain amplifies signals from areas it does not expect to receive stimulation from. Light touch here, slow strokes, even warm breath. The response can be immediate and surprisingly intense, precisely because she never sees it coming. This zone is also a trust signal. Touching somewhere this unexpected and this gentle tells her body. He is paying attention, he is present, he is not just going through the motions. That psychological shift alone amplifies every other zone you have touched before it. Zone 5, the lower back. The lower back is not just an erogenous zone, it is a neurological bridge. The sacral nerves sit directly beneath the skin of the lower back. These are the same nerve roots that serve the pelvic floor and the genitals. When you stimulate the lower back slowly, you are sending signals along the exact same neural highway that connects to her most sensitive areas. Not indirectly, directly. Gentle pressure here. Long, slow strokes from the mid-back downward. The response is not just physical. Women consistently describe lower back stimulation as deeply relaxing and deeply erotic at the same time. That combination, relaxation and arousal simultaneously, is exactly what the research describes as the ideal physiological state for female orgasm. You are not just touching her lower back. You are preparing her entire nervous system for what comes next. Zone 6, the inner thigh. Now, the inner thigh is the one zone on this list that most men do touch, but almost never the right way. Most men use the inner thigh as a transition, a route to somewhere else. They move through it, not into it. That is the mistake. The inner thigh sits directly adjacent to the genitals. The same nerve branches that serve the clitoris extend into the inner thigh tissue. Slow stimulation here does not just create anticipation. It activates the same neural network. Research shows that touching the inner thigh without moving to the genitals creates more dopamine release than moving directly to the goal. The brain's reward system responds more powerfully to anticipation than to arrival. The longer you stay here, slow, deliberate, unhurried, the stronger her response when you do move further. Most men rush this zone. The men who do not, she talks about them differently. Now, if this is already changing how you think about her body, I want you to check out my other video on why only 18% of women climax from penetration alone. The link is in the description. It goes directly deeper into the biology we are covering today, and it will change how you approach everything. Now, knowing the 6 zones is only half of it, how you use them is the other half. And the most important thing to understand is sequence. These zones are not random additions to throw in somewhere. They are a warm-up system, and warm-up has to come before the main event, not during it. Research shows women who receive 15 or more minutes of full body stimulation before intercourse report significantly higher orgasm rates. That is not a preference finding, that is a physiology finding. Her nervous system needs time to shift states from daily life, stress, distraction, responsibility, to full physical and emotional presence. These 6 zones are what create that shift. Now, the order matters too. Start furthest from the genitals, the scalp, the neck, the inner wrist. Move slowly inward behind the knee, the lower back, the inner thigh. By the time you reach the inner thigh, her entire nervous system has been activated. Oxytocin levels are elevated. Cortisol is dropping. The C-tactile fibers have been sending affection signals to her brain for minutes. She is not just physically ready, she is neurologically ready. That is a completely different experience than going straight to the obvious places. I had a patient, I will call her Sarah. Her previous partners had always gone straight to primary zones. She described the experience as feeling like a cold engine being forced to run hot. A new partner spent time on her neck, her lower back, her inner wrists. She told me, I got there before he even touched me directly. It was the first time my body actually trusted someone first. That is what these zones do when used correctly. They build trust at the biological level, and trust is the most powerful arousal trigger the female body has. Now, I want to tell you something that women tell me consistently in clinical practice. Women talk about this with their friends, with their sisters, with me. And what they say is not that their partners are bad. It is that their partners are focused on the wrong places. He goes straight to the obvious spots. She feels rushed. Her body is not ready, and the experience is fine, but it is not remarkable. She does not say this to him because she does not want to hurt him, because she does not have the language to explain it. And honestly, because she did not fully understand the biology herself until someone explained it to her. This is a shared information gap, not a compatibility problem, not a chemistry problem. Now, here is something the research confirms that I want you to hear clearly. Men and women have almost identical erogenous zone maps. The neck, the inner thigh, the lower back, these zones are just as sensitive in men as they are in women. The difference is not biology. The difference is attention. Female partners pay attention to the full map. Most male partners do not. That single difference accounts for a significant portion of the orgasm gap. Not anatomy, not chemistry, not compatibility, attention. And attention is something any man can give. You were never taught the full map. Now you have it, and that changes everything about what is possible for her. Now, before we close, I want to give you the one thing that determines whether any of this actually works. Because you can touch every single zone on this list perfectly, and it still will not land the way it should if this one thing is missing. That thing is presence. Emily Nagoski's research describes arousal as having 2 systems: an accelerator, things that turn her on, and a brake, things that prevent arousal even when stimulation is present. Stress is the most powerful brake. Distraction is the second most powerful. If she feels like you are going through a checklist, the brake stays on. The touch lands as mechanical rather than intentional. But when she feels that your attention is fully on her, not on where things are heading, not on your own experience, the brake releases. And when the brake releases, every single zone on this list becomes exponentially more powerful. Presence is not a soft concept. It is a physiological one. It determines whether oxytocin rises or stays flat, whether cortisol drops or stays elevated, whether her nervous system opens or stays guarded. Touch these 6 zones with full presence and genuine curiosity about her response. That combination, biology and presence together, is what the men she remembers actually do. Look, the men who become genuinely unforgettable partners are not the ones with the most experience or the best technique. They are the ones who took the time to understand her body well enough to actually show up for it. 6 zones, full presence, slow touch, the right sequence. That is not a complicated formula. It is just one most men were never given. Now you have it. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Which of these 6 zones genuinely surprised you the most? And which one are you going to try differently? I read every comment personally, and I reply to as many as I can. And if this gave you something real today, subscribe. New content every single week. Evidence-based, honest, and direct. all of it designed to make you a more knowledgeable, more confident partner. I do not want you to miss it. Your intimate life is worth investing in. Understanding what actually creates pleasure makes you a better, more confident partner. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep taking care of yourself.